Welcome. Find a comfortable position, and let the weight of the day begin to dissolve into the warmth of this fire. Breathe in, and out. There's no need to focus, no need to remember. Just listen, and let the stories drift through your mind like smoke curling toward the chimney. Tonight, we begin not with a king or an emperor, but with a shiver of fear in the heart of a warrior. We travel to a time when longships with dragon-proud bows were the terror of coasts from Dublin to Constantinople. The Vikings. Names that struck dread into the prayers of monks. Ragnar Lothbrok, Ivar the Boneless, Eric Bloodaxe. They were explorers, yes, traitors sometimes, but famously, they were raiders who believed that to die in battle was a passport to the halls of Valhalla. They feared little, except, history whispers, for one people. Settle deeper now, as the fire popped softly. Imagine the scene. It is the late 8th century. A Viking ship, its sail striped, its crew hardened by the North Sea's bite, sights the eastern coast of England. Their target is a wealthy, undefended monastery. But another ship, from an earlier raid, has returned with tales not of gold, but of a nightmare to the north. They speak of a tribe so fierce, so relentless in battle, that they made the Norse gods themselves seem distant. The Vikings called them Skrælingjar, a word meaning, roughly, barbarians, or shriekers. But in the context of the British Isles, this terror had a specific name, the Picts. The land of the Picts was what we now call Scotland, north of the great walls built by the Romans to contain them, and contain them they tried. Hadrian's Wall, Antonine Wall, stone testaments to Roman frustration. The legions, masters of the known world, found the Picts impossible to subdue. They were ghost fighters, emerging from mist and moorland, striking with a ferocity that was less like battle and more like a force of nature. They tattooed their bodies with intricate, dark blue designs, making their very skin a weapon of psychological war. In the half-light of dawn or dusk, they seemed like demons rising from the earth itself. But what could frighten a Viking? Vikings were the frighteners. It was their craft. The answer lies not just in how the Picts fought, but where and who they were. When Viking longships first probed the coasts of Pictish lands, seeking easy plunder, they found no undefended monasteries. They found a people for whom every hill, every loch, every thicket was a part of their fortress. The Picts used the landscape as a weapon. They would lure Norse raiding parties inland, into narrow glens or dense forests, where their longships and open sea tactics were useless. Then, from the shadows, would come a silence, followed by a chorus of war horns that echoed not from one direction, but from all around. The Picts did not just fight to win. They fought to race. There is a legend, passed down in Norse sagas, of a Viking crew that landed on a Pictish beach. They found a single, standing stone carved with strange symbols. As they debated its meaning, they realized the forest behind them had gone silent. The wind. By the time they turned, no bird, no rustle of fox. Just the wind. By the time they turned, it was too late. The trees themselves seemed to move. They never made it back to their ship. The sagas say the Picts did not take prisoners for slaves, nor did they always take valuables. They simply took the invaders, and the invaders vanished into the mist of the highlands, leaving only stories that would give pause to the next wave of dragon ships. So, as you feel the warmth of this fire on your skin, imagine the cold mist of the highlands. The Vikings, who laughed in the face of storm and sword, learned a subtle lesson. There are some fires, like the one you're listening to now, that are warm and welcoming. And there are other fires, those in the eyes of a people defending their home, etched into their very skin, that promise only a cold, final darkness. The Picts were not a larger empire, nor did they have greater technology. They had something more potent, an absolute, terrifying sovereignty over their own land, and in that, they became the ghost story Norse sailors told each other before sleep. A long pause, filled only by the crackling fire. The narrator's voice returns, softer now. Asterisk. Narrator, let that story fade into the embers. It's just one thread in the vast tapestry of the past. A tapestry filled with curious figures whose true faces are often hidden behind the portraits history painted for them. Take, for instance, the man whose name is synonymous with genius, Leonardo da Vinci. We see the Mona Lisa, the flying machines, the anatomical sketches. We see the Renaissance man. But by the firelight, we might see something else. A man profoundly out of time, and perhaps, deeply lonely. He left over 7,000 pages of notes, but in all those pages, he almost never wrote of love, of friendship, of family in a personal way. His journals are a storm of questions. Asterisk. Describe the tongue of the woodpecker. Why is the sky blue? and breathtaking observations, but they are addressed to no one. They were in mirror writing, a private cipher. Was he protecting his ideas? Or was he building a wall between his magnificent, racing mind and a world that couldn't possibly keep up? He started so many masterpieces he never finished. He was famously distractible, following the trail of a curious insect instead of applying paint to a commissioned wall. Modern scholars wonder if his genius was entwined with what we might now call ADHD or a form of autism. He wasn't just a man who knew everything. He was a man driven by an insatiable, almost compulsive need to understand everything, from the valves of the heart to the swirls of water. His mind was less like a palace of knowledge and more like a wildfire, spreading in all directions. The tragedy and the beauty of Leonardo was that he lived in a world that could only fuel a tiny part of that fire. The rest burned in his private notebooks, unseen for centuries. So the next time you see his serene Last Supper, remember the restless, endlessly questioning, possibly lonely man behind it, whose greatest masterpiece might have been the boundless curiosity of his own mind. Fire crackles loudly for a moment, then settles into a steady, low hum. The narrator's pace slows further. Asterisk. Narrator. History is not just about people, but about silences, about voices that went suddenly quiet, leaving puzzles in their wake. Consider the Mary Celeste. Not a person, but a ghost ship. Found adrift in the calm Atlantic in 1872, her sails slightly torn, her lifeboat missing, but her hull seaworthy. A year's supply of food and water, cargo of industrial alcohol largely intact, the personal belongings of the crew and the captain's family, his wife and 2-year-old daughter, still in their quarters, but not a soul on board. No sign of struggle. The last log entry was mundane, days old. It was as if the 10 people on board had simply evaporated. By this fire's glow, let's walk the deck of that silent ship. The teacups might have been set down. A child's toy on a bunk. The wind in the rigging the only sound. What happened? The theories are as numerous as the stars outside a window. Pirates. But nothing was stolen. A mutiny. No evidence of violence. A waterspout. Perhaps, but the ship was undamaged. Did they smell the alcohol fumes and, fearing an imminent explosion, hastily abandon ship into the lifeboat, only to watch helplessly as the Mary Celeste simply sailed on without them? The sea took them, and kept its secret. The Mary Celeste is a reminder that the past is not a solved equation. It is a collection of stories, and some of those stories have no ending. They are open doors into the dark, inviting us to wonder, and then to let the mystery be. A long, comfortable silence. The fire sounds are foregrounded, the gentle hiss, the pop, the deep resinous groan of a burning log. Asterisk. Narrator. And what of moments that seem to hold the weight of an era in a single, unforgettable image? Think of November 9, 1989 asterisk. The Berlin Wall. For 28 years, it was not just concrete and barbed wire. It was a division of the world, of ideologies, of families. It was the Cold War made physical. Then, in a confusion of announcements and a rising tide of people, the gates were opened. Not with tanks, but with sheer, collective will. People streamed through. They climbed on top. They danced. They chipped away at the hated concrete with hammers and chisels. But by the firelight, let's not see the crowd. Let's imagine one man. A East Berliner, perhaps a teacher or a mechanic. He's in his 50s. He remembers the wall going up when he was a young man. He has a sister in the West he hasn't seen in decades, only heard through rare, costly phone calls. He stands at the Bornholmer Strasse checkpoint, his heart hammering. The border guard, a young man just doing his job, looks at the sea of faces, looks at his superiors for an order that doesn't come. He shrugs. He opens the gate. Our man steps forward. One step, then another. He is not running, not cheering yet. He is walking across a line that, just hours before, would have meant being shot. He reaches the other side. He touches the wall. The concrete is cold, gritty. He looks at the West Berliners embracing strangers, their faces wet with tears. He picks up a hammer someone dropped. He lifts it. He brings it down. Clink. A small, white chip flies off. It's a tiny, useless piece. He picks it up, puts it in his pocket. In that clink, you can hear the end of a world. Not with a bang, but with the sound of a wall becoming a souvenir. It reminds us that history's most monumental shifts often come down to a single, human act, a step, a lifted hammer, an embrace long delayed. The narrator's voice is now a near whisper. blending with the sound of the fire. Asterisk. Narrator. Let these stories go. The fierce Picts, the lonely genius, the silent ship, the falling wall. Watch them drift up with the sparks, becoming part of the night sky. Your mind has wandered through time and mystery. Now, let it come home. Home to the rhythm of your own breathing. In and out. Home to the steady, ancient sound of wood giving its warmth to the air. This fire has been a companion to stories for 100,000 years. It has lit the faces of storytellers from cave to castle to this quiet room. There is no more to uncover tonight. No more mysteries to solve. Only the gentle, persistent crackle, the soft, orange glow behind your closed eyelids. Let the fire carry the weight of history now. Let it hold all the questions, so you don't have to. You are here. You are safe. You are resting. The stories are done for the night. All that remains is the fire, and your deep, quiet, well-deserved rest. Let go, and sleep. The fire sounds continue, clean and alone, for the remainder of the recording. Slowly,